afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the presentations of the power of Zero Trust, security in digital transformation. So for today's session, I promise it will be quick so we all can enjoy lunch together, right? So for this session, we're first going to take a look at what Zero Trust is, and we're going to talk about the roles of privileged access management and why is it so important in your Zero Trust journey. And then we're going to finally convert this into privileged access management solutions and how they're relevant along this path. So to begin, let's take a formal definition as outlined by NIST 800-207. So in another word, I believe you have seen all this, seen this all days, right? So in another word, we want to say is that, we want to take out of the traditional security controls that we used in the past to secure the access and data. This is not enough, right? So what we're going to do? And we're going to say, you know what? This is not enough. There are better ways to secure the authentications and authorization and data access that can be achieved using a better model like a Zero Trust technology. Right, so why Zero Trust now, right? So we recognize that the traditional perimeter-based defense is simply not enough. Everything is no longer confined into a physical structures behind the secure perimeter. So you have everything, you have your servers, your workload that is in the cloud. We talk about hybrid cloud, we talk about multi-cloud, and all this, cloud-based universe is going to be expanding, right? So with this, it actually switched the perimeters-less environment. So we call this an expansion of the attack surface as well when, all our environment is no longer within a perimeter. So since most of the time that, we access most of the, assets that is not going to be happen or authenticate within our network infrastructure, so it is very important for us to identify the access without leaving the bad guy in, right? So because of this, and we have seen more and more new corporate standards and, even governments, they talk about Zero Trust already. They make it as a mandate, they make it as a guideline in order to secure the perimeters and to secure the entire infrastructures, right? So, and a lot of organizations also really understand that Zero Trust is not really just an architecture framework, but it is also a mindset that actually push organizations to rethink what is being monitored, what should I be prioritizing, and what should be remediated. So let's take a look at the PAM. What is the role of the PAM in all this? This is actually the keys. We have been talking about identity, we have been talking about accounts and accessing the data in Zero Trust, but there is a special case of privileged access management that it requires by the entire administrations of the infrastructure. And those users that are working from anywhere as well. So we might need to as well securing all these users and access. So we need to take the special case of privileged access management to really apply the concept of Zero Trust, to make it better, right? So for instance, servers administrator that is going to access to the critical workload, they are going to do server maintenance, they are going to do deployment, they are going to do installations, patching, configuration management, anything that the privileged users will do, we want to secure all of them, right? So we need to take this, we also need to apply this into a concept of least privilege, basically only giving the access and the amount of rights that, in order to allow the users to fulfill their jobs and nothing more. So if someone is trying to do something that is out of the, secure perimeters and, is out of the job scope, we may need to continuously monitor them. We need to take some actions. Probably we need to prevent certain commands from happening, as well as we may need to use another alternative approach as a form of escalations, maybe send out an email to, challenge the user, right? So the role of PAM is basically to apply the granularity of PAM through a Zero Trust objective to ensure all the access, whether it is a standard users or it is an administrator, is being managed and documented regardless on how they come into the environment, right? So if you consider your environment today and how many users are working from home and how many of them are having administrative privileges and they are accessing to the sensitive data, And if you apply this concept to that, then you will be getting the granularity in terms of monitoring and additional authentications regardless of where they need to do their work, right? And then lastly, the PAM is so important that because the privileged account get compromised, it can actually take down the whole organizations. So let's take PAM into considerations as part of your zero trust journey. So this is 8 ways to basically enable zero trust in a PAM perspective, right? So first thing first, we talk about visibility. So it is really important that using a PAMs as a tools to be a great efficiency to tell you exactly your environment. So it gives you the visibility, it runs a scan, it tells you exactly what are the workload within your system and what are the users account that is within your system. And even for Shadow's account that has been created during the very initial stage of the deployment, you may want to also take that into considerations. And it will tell you exactly what are the accounts in this environment, and you better make an informed decisions on how to actually manage all those accounts, right? So the second point is we need to basically continuously enforce the adaptive just-in-time access. So this is basically a concept that tell the users, you know what, you need to do these actions within the time frame. So anything outside of the time frame, we will disable your access. And this is going to be greatly reducing the attack surface in terms of the privilege escalations kind of attacks. And third, we talk about manage and enforce the credential security best practice. We're talking about password management, we talk about key management, we talk about API keys as well, the secret keys that we wanted to manage and vault it, right, to prevent any form of attack. So for instance, the password is one of the key points that we need to make sure that we are managing those password in a non-human readable format, right? It is so hard for users to even take out from the system. So at the same time, we will be allowing users to use those privileged credentials and access to the system securely. And we basically obfuscated all the humans element out of the password so that we are protecting the secret and credentials, right? And the next one will be applying the least privilege. So what is it saying is that we want to control as much as possible. We are removing the root credential, we are removing the root privileges, administrative privileges from all the users. They need to do something on the system. We basically using the patented technologies to elevate the users to allow them to perform some tasks. At no time when users is accessing to the system, they are running as administrator. This also takes down a lot of these chances of getting a compromise of the system elevations attack, and even certain malware that is going to run within the system is not going to be exploded, and having a lateral movement, for example, as well, in using a least privilege concept. And we also want to talk about micro-segmentation or even segmentation, but not really within the network context, within the privileged access context, right? So for example, this particular users that is accessing the system, we want to make sure that he is only transferring files and this is all they need to get, right? So if they are not having any remote sessions at all to control the screens and etc., they will not be able to perform any executed commands that is not authorized by the organization. So we also want to do a micro-segmentation in terms of the workload, in terms of the applications that are accessing, in terms of the certain protocol that they are accessing as well. And one of the last thing is secure access to these control planes. We call this, the control management of the, cloud virtualizations or even DevOps kind of solutions. So all these control planes are basically tied hand in hand to basically control the data planes within the organizations. And to secure the control planes from a privileged access management perspective will greatly reduce the chances of getting a system compromise as well. So the last thing is probably the most important points. If we are doing 1 to 7, we are not doing the number 8, we are not achieving zero trust at all, right? So because we need to continuous monitor, we need to manage, we need to audit every single sessions that happens to the users so that we are able to make a very informed decisions on the behavior of the user. So behavior is the key. So with that, we actually look at, beyond trust and zero trust. We look at our solutions as a smart, intelligence, and practical against the NIST 800-207 document. We have a reference architecture that is in the form of a white paper to take all of our solutions to deploy them in order to achieve the 8 goals that we spoke about, right? So just feel free to drop by to the BeyondTrust website to actually check it out. And first, privileged password management. This is basically the solutions that enforce all your privileged credentials to make sure that all of them are being managed in a secure manner and it's non-human readable as well. And the next part is basically having a session management in order to take out of the credentials from a human is exposing the password. And we also have a second solutions which handle the help desk and also the third-party vendor that is trying to access within the network from an untrusted internet, for example. So this is basically giving you the granularity, giving you the micro-segmentations as well to control all your external access, be it a third-party vendor or it is an internal employee that is accessing to your system. And endpoint privilege management, perhaps you want to take a notch up to basically manage your securities. You want to remove as much as possible the privileges on the workstations, on the servers, on different platforms in order to enhance the security, right? Enforcing the concept of least privilege will reduce the attack surface and all. And the last part is cloud security management. So this is the solutions are basically giving you the visibility in terms of your digital transformations strategy. Perhaps you are using any of the cloud solutions out there, cloud service provider. Each of them basically contains hundreds of entitlements. So how do we know exactly which users are using the entitlement effectively? We will basically you will scan the entitlements for each of the users and give accordingly the security suggestions. Maybe perhaps to ask you, hey, this user is not turned on with MFA. Perhaps you should turn it on. And this user only used like 5 entitlements for all the list of hundreds entitlements that he has. So perhaps you should disable the rest, right? So remember, zero trust is not a product. It is a paradigm or it is a philosophy that, when you take the solutions on and you architect it correctly, it will allow you to achieve zero trust. And the most important accounts the one that we are talking about is the privileged accounts. And this can be the risk of your business. And this is basically another form of elevated account that must be managed carefully. So with that, I just want to thank all of you for the time and your attendance today. Thanks.